this is all in celebration of Science Week. So our experiments today are all going to be plant focused. I am Rachel, and this is
Kiesha. Right, before we get started with this experiment, let's talk about plants. What do we think a plant is? Well, what do you think a plant is, Rachel?
Oh, most plants are green, aren't they?
Most plants are green, but some plants are different colours. A plant is actually a living organism. Examples include trees, grass, shrubs, moss, and ferns. A plant is made up of 3 parts. We brought an example for you. Here it is. This is a succulent plant. So the 3 parts are the roots here. They're buried deep down in the ground. They're what keeps the plant rooted in ground, and it carries water up the stem. The next part is the stem. This is what links the roots to the leaves, and it keeps the plant standing up straight. And last, we have the leaves. These leaves are different colours. Usually, plants' leaves are green, and this is because of something called chlorophyll. Now, the leaves absorb sunlight, and the chlorophyll turns that sunlight into energy so the plant can eat.
Is that what photosynthesis is?
Yes, so that is called photosynthesis.
Very good. So, but some plants also have flowers, right?
Yes, some plants also have flowers, but they're also considered leaves. We'll talk about flowers later. So let's get started.
First of all, we're going to need some stuff for our experiments.
Why don't you come in close and take a look? So, to follow along at home and join us in planting patience, you will need
Celery stalks,
water,
food colouring,
plastic cups,
leaves,
flowers,
crayons,
paper,
paper towel,
newspaper or baking paper,
heavy books. Activity 1, celery straws.
So, first up, we've got the activity called celery straws. Now, the reason we're doing celery straws is because we have a question. How do plants drink? Plants, like humans and animals, like to drink as well, otherwise they won't be able to survive. So, how do we think they do that?
So water is absorbed by the roots here and up the stem into the leaves. So to demonstrate this, we're going to use some celery and some food dye. So you need your celery. You might need to get an adult to help you chop the top and the bottom off, so we can then put it in some water. So you'll also need some water and a cup. Right, so step 1, we need to cut our celery. So you might need to get an adult to do this for you at home. You're going to cut the top off, and we're going to cut the bottom off. Okay, nice way. Take
Probably
away
best to
these
use a chopping board at home as well.
Yes, didn't have a chopping board, so chopping board is best. Then, on step 2, we're going to fill up our cup with some water to the halfway point. There we go.
That looks about halfway.
Then we need to put some food dye in it. So we're going to use red food dye because it shows up best. You only need 2 drops. 1, 2. I think that was 3, but that's okay.
A little bit extra. No one's too mad at red.
And then you might need to get a spoon to stir it around. But after that, you put your celery straw in. And then you're going to leave that for about a day. Okay, so we have some we prepared earlier. But before we get to those, what do you think is going to happen? Will it be A, turn entirely red?
Will it be B, not soak up any colour?
Or will it be C, absorb the coloured water through its tubes. Did you guess C? Because if you did, you'd be correct. So here you can see that this coloured water has been sucked up the tubes of the celery straw. See all those little red dots there? So that shows us that the celery is absorbing the water. It also shows us that, remember, this was the bottom bit, so this is where the roots were, and this was the top bit, this is where the leaves came out. So the water is going from the roots all the way up the stem through the tubes to the leaves. So what if I cut this in half, we should also see these red dots through the middle. So let's try that. So, nice and careful with your knife.
So your adults with you? Oh wow, isn't that interesting, everyone? You can't actually see the red between the stems tubes here and only on top because the water has travelled all the way to the top and it's stopped there.
There you go. That's not what I was expecting. It's always good when you learn something from a science experiment. Yeah, okay. There you go. Not what I thought would happen. Put that back. I wonder if we put that in there, if that's going to go.
It should.
We'll see. So let's look at the other colours that we also use. So we used red because we knew that was going to be the darkest. But you could also use blue, yellow, or green. So blue one here. That's pretty dark as well. You can see the blue there. The yellow one, that's not as dark. If you get really close, you can see the yellow. But it's just not as dark as the blue or the red.
The green one was a dark horse. It came out of nowhere. We didn't think it was going to be very dark. You couldn't see it. But you can actually see this one very well.
There you go.
It almost looks black.
Yes, it does. We also did a control experiment. So that's where we didn't put any dye at all in the water. So you can't see any colours coming through the top. That's because the water is clear. So the water did go up the stem. We just can't see it because it's already clear. And if you see, we have another one that we didn't put in any water at all. And it's gone all rubbery and it's starting to look a bit sad.
He looks very sad.
Whereas this one is still nice and fresh. So that also tells you that the water has gone up through the stem.
Let's see what they sound like when we break it in half.
Oh, it's a nice crunch there.
What does that one sound like?
You want me to break this one? Maybe this one sounds better.
Wow,
So
that
much
sounds
better.
so much better.
Oh, there you go.
Activity 2, leaf rubbing. Alrighty everyone, so we're up to activity 2 already. This activity is leaf rubbing. And with this activity, we're going to talk about the plant's leaves. So why do the plants need leaves?
Yeah, why, Coach?
So leaves are actually what the plant uses to eat. The plant absorbs sunlight through the leaves and they turn it into energy by absorbing light, which causes electrons in the leaves to get excited, and it turns the water that the plant drinks into energy.
So does that mean plants eat sunlight?
It does. So the process that plants use to create sunlight, to create energy from sunlight, is called photosynthesis. This is done in the leaves. It's done in this. This process also creates oxygen that humans and animals use to breathe.
So does that mean that without plants, we wouldn't be able to breathe?
That's right. Without plants, we wouldn't have any oxygen, so it's best that we don't cut them all down. So, leaves come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes, like this one. This one's pretty big, and then we've got this one from a rose plant here. It's really small.
Oh, there's such a difference between those two leaves.
And this one, even though it's big like this one, it's shaped like a triangle.
Oh, wow.
So because of this diversity, it becomes easy to tell the difference between plants. So with this activity, what we're going to do is we're going to need some leaves. You might get these from trees on your way to school, or you might have some in your backyard if you have a backyard. You're going to need a crayon and a piece of paper. It doesn't really matter how big that is. So let's get started. So to start off, we're going to pick up our leaves. We're going to place them underneath our paper. Then what I want you to do, if you have multiple leaves, don't put a big leaf right in the middle of the paper. Make sure you have enough room for all your leaves. So then we're going to take our crayons and very gently use the long edge of the crayon to rub over the leaf. So tell me, what do you see when you rub your crayon over the top of your leaf?
Wow, you can see all the veins, Kiesha.
You can. It's really, really detailed. These veins on the leaves connect to the tubes in the stem. It's transporting water all throughout the plant.
That's awesome. Look at that.
Activity 3, preserving plants.
So for our last activity, we're going to press some plants and flowers and leaves. This is a great way to preserve your plants so you can look at them later. Did you know that plants can be preserved for up to hundreds of years?
100 years?
100 years?
Yeah.
No way.
By pressing plants, you can preserve them for up to 100 years. So they also make great rubbings like we did in the last activity. Scientists will also use them in their museum collections and will help them identify plants. Artists might also use them just because they look pretty and they can use them in their artworks. So for this activity, you're going to need some plants and flowers and leaves collected from your garden or maybe a friend's garden, or if you can't get any from the garden, maybe you'll just go to the shop and buy some.
So here are some that Rachel's brought in from her own garden.
Yes, this is a nice pretty pink one. This grows in the very back of my yard. My dogs love this one. And this one, this is the same. Well, I'm not sure what these plants are. I don't actually know their name, but they're next to each other in my garden. This is actually a weed. So this is just, these leaves will be good to press.
This one's a bit big for the books we have right now, so I might just break off a leaf.
So this is some mint.
It smells really nice.
Yeah, so this is in my garden as well. So what we also need is we need some newspaper, some paper towel, and some heavy books. The first step is to put down a layer of paper towel. Of newspaper. Okay, nice and flat. Then put down some paper towel.
We need 2 rows because we've got a lot of flowers.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason we use the newspaper is because it will absorb the moisture out of the flowers. And then the paper towel just helps protect the flowers. So we're just going to arrange them nicely. This one might be a bit hard to squish because it is so big.
It's better if you pick smaller flowers.
We'll see how we go.
They're easier to plant.
Yeah. This one. Some leaves on there. The mints. Put them close together because our books aren't very big. Then we put some more paper towel on top. Make sure you cover all the bits. And then another layer of newspaper. ready to go. All we do is we put our heavy books on top. This is the heaviest one, so I'm going to put it on the biggest one, the biggest flower. It's going to take some time to squish. And then put this one here. Now this is going to take a few weeks. Okay, it takes a while for all the moisture to come out of the plants, and it takes a while for them to go nice and flat. So we're going to put this aside, and then we're going to show you some that we prepared earlier.
With our books that we use to flatten them, it's even better if you use more books.
Yes, you can put more books on top. It's all good. Here's some we prepared earlier. So you can see they're very flat. You can barely see them. But they look nice and pretty.
This one's actually a branch from a tree.
So some burgundy leaves. So these aren't green leaves. This is one of those rare plants that isn't green. Got all these here. Now these are flowers from clover. This is what a clover flower looks like. So it's a little purple one, but sometimes they're just white, like this one here. This one there. So Kiesha picked these ones up off her walk to work. We've got some type of grass with its seeds on top. And then just a few more leaves. And a nice white pressed flower here. And you have to be careful, they do become quite fragile.
This one's very, very thin.
It's very, very thin. And then there's some more leaves that were pressed as well. And there you go.
So, what have we learned? Well, through activity 1, celery straws, I was able to see that plants do drink. By cutting the celery in half and placing it in water that has food dye in it, we were able to see that the tubes inside the celery stalk take the water all the way up to the top where the leaves are. We don't have leaves on our current celery, but we can see them by looking at the top of the stem and seeing all the tubes have settled water on top of it.
In activity 2, leaf rubbing, I learned about photosynthesis and that this is the process that plants use to change sunlight into energy. And they do this through their leaves. The process also creates oxygen. With the leaf rubbing, we could see the different structures of the leaf. You can see the veins, different sizes, all the things you can't see to the naked eye, but you can see once you put some crayon on some paper.
And lastly, with activity 3, preserving plants, I learned that you can actually keep plants for up to 100 years. Isn't that amazing? So the way that we do that is by putting the plants between 2 heavy objects and some paper. Now we definitely need the paper because the paper is what keeps the plants dry throughout this process. And I don't know if we saw, but sometimes if you don't put the paper, the plants can become moldy. So once we put our paper and our plants together beneath a hard object, we can keep our plants for 100 years.
Well, that's it for today's science program. We're so glad that you could join us. Don't forget, you can also watch this video back a bit later so you can complete the experiments in your own time.
And if you enjoyed it today, be sure to like and share so that everyone on your Facebook page can enjoy it too. We hope to see you soon in the library. Did you know we're open again? You can come in and check out all the science books you like with your library card. We hope to see you soon.